shake as the empire cracks. Gunners on the front line, no turning back. Screams of the oppressed, feel the endless fight, tear it all apart in the dead of night. Retaliation's end, in ashes they will lie, for Sharon's legacy will never die. Burn it down, the fruit of the poisonous tree, gunning for CPS, victory decree. On the attack, with fury unchained, fighting Tennessee, Kentucky restrained. War anthem eternal, the revolution's here, saving Sharon's cave, conquering the fear. Gunning for CPS, burn it all.
Fighting hard, family torn apart. Whispers tearing lives, hearts raw scarred. Judges grinning, deals in shadows locked. Case workers speaking truth they've mocked. Gunning on for justice, rage intense, bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, loss collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. CPS stealing kids, no trace. Lies build walls, the truth they erase. Gunners howl, cuts through the air. He won't stop midnight, he'll get there. Dark hallways where the guilty play. Secrets hiding, hope fades away. A man with fire, voice like a storm. Breaking chains, reform, transform. Gunning on for justice, rage intense, bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, loss collapse. Kids go missing behind their maps. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze.
Hey, look. This for every mama got her baby snatched on some bogus shit. For every pops they locked out the crib like he ain't blood. CPS, y'all been eating off pain for too long. We know what you on. But now it's war, this gun and foe. CPS. Kick doors, no warrants, they taking our seeds. Say it's neglect, but they planting they greed. Feds in they pocket, judge got a fee. Run it like a business, adoption spree. Contracts overseas, got partners in France. But shorty from Shy, he ain't get a chance. Mama work 2 jobs, daddy do right, but they still snatch his baby in the middle of the night. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruin good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They labeled us monsters, called us unfit, but it's they paperwork dirty, all of it forged and flipped. How the fuck they selling babies to a bidder overseas? Then tell the fam you unworthy. Man, please, we got mamas in pain, daddies in tears. They breaking our hearts, been doing it for years. Now we riding with Gunner, and we got the proof. Sworn under oath, now it's time for truth. Trump got the team and the pen in his hand. He said bring them home, now that's the plan. You feds been hiding, but it's over now. We moving like an army, and we ain't bowing down. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruin good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They ain't gods, they ain't law, they just people, corrupt people. And when the people rise, ain't no system safe. This Chi-Town, it's the movement. We gunning for CPS, and we coming heavy. Yeah. Wait.
I'm gonna pull the whole thing down. I'm gonna bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's gonna be biblical.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Gunning for CPS. I'm your host, Gunner. Thanks for joining us once again. You guys that are out there watching and sharing the information that we have out there, make sure that we're getting the word out there that this is our regularly broadcasted show every Sunday evening at 9:30 p.m. I just wanted to cover, without you guys, just to put this out here, without you guys, none of this would be possible. Our words, our information, our knowledge would not be shared. Even people that watch the show afterwards, either on YouTube or Facebook, whatever, and happen to share it afterwards to their own page to get the words out, to get that information out. But I know there's a lot of shadow banning, a lot of blocking, so on and so forth. And for those of you out there that this is our first time, we are now broadcasting. Once again, this is our pilot show, really, for a new platform. We are now on Rumble under, like I said, Gunner OG. I think it's the way it's listed there. So if you're joining us for the first time on Rumble, we're glad to have you. This is what this is kind of like what we're doing, and what we do with on this particular show is we deal with corruption within the CPS, it's state by state, national, the family court systems, constitutional rights, and education on the courts and court processes they don't want you to know about. That technically the courts are not supposed to be hidden from us. We're supposed to fully understand the courts as being citizens. Matter of fact, that's part of your public education system that has failed every single one of us to understand the basics of what our rights are, what we go in there with, what to expect. This is one of those things I'm not going to deal with it unless I encounter it. I just, and I don't expect it. But once again, as you guys know out there, especially a lot of you guys that do stuff with CPS. There doesn't have to be a reason. You could have somebody do an anonymous call on you, or even your doctor, or this. You're not doing things a certain way. This is still America. Whether we like it or not, or other people like it or not, this is still America. We are bound by the Constitution, and there are ways to enforce that and do that previous generations have not done before. They've been sidetracked. A lot of people go on with the boomers, or some of the other generations even before that of, oh, well, we don't have the same wage, we don't have this, things are completely different. Of course, well, there was a reason for that. They were slowly eroding the rights. They didn't care. Why? Because if you look at the time period and you look at history, you have the invention of the internet, cell phones. We were constantly getting connected, especially through the late 70s, the 80s, so on and so forth. Schools began integrating with stuff like that. Instead of having typewriter class, you had keyboard class. Several other things. But, as we go through this fight, I think one thing to keep in mind is, as we're going through, we may get a little frustrated because some people won't go with us the entire way. We'll say in our battle, and there's people I've known that have been fighting CPS in the system, for well over a decade. Others that were part of cults, so on. So I mean, just bad situations, and they're still recovering, they're still healing. But I want to encourage you guys. I know that a lot of times, we feel we deserve something, we want something, this and that. Do yourself a favor. If you've got somebody that you're a partner with or somebody you're talking to, there's one thing I told my kids, and once again, some people put on good masks. Others, you find out much later they aren't who they really say they are. My kids experienced that one. But you got to watch out for that, man, because there's a lot of people out there that when it goes through those hard times, when it goes through things that cut to the bone, they're not always going to be standing there with you. And sometimes that has to do with a lot of things that they have not dealt with, past traumas, past pains, whatever it may be. And you don't understand why some people walk away, but over time I've learned, watching other people break other people. Now, I'm going to be dead honest with you, and some of you guys may not like this, and I've had this conversation with many, but the cruelest people I've ever met in my life, especially when they're talking about each other, has been women. Some of the women have just been the most cruelest people I have ever seen in my life, to both men and other women. There was a thing that Pearl put out of, if it wasn't for women, there wouldn't be evil in the world. I don't necessarily hold that that's true, but I got her perspective. You guys can go back and watch that. Whatever happened to the loving and the caring and the things we were supposed to, that home was a safe place, that it's not anymore. Even CPS has, kind of broken all that up with being able to come into your home, or pressuring people into the home and this, that, instead of people knowing the rights of saying, it used to be common sense. Unless you got a warrant, piss off. It's in my house. How many people, well, I've got a court order to remove your children. Well, my children are in the house. So, wait, you got a warrant to come in the house? No, you don't. So as long as they're in the home, they are secure, and you need to go get a warrant. And then that warrant, as we've educated you guys on several times, you can look it up, of saying, I've seen people, deliver a warrant, look over there and go, well, who signed this? Well, there's your warrant. There's the name of the judge. No. Hold on here. This is an illegal warrant. And then you go to educate the deputies and everybody else and go look it up. To come into my home, you have to have an Article 3 judge sign this. That's a family court judge. That's an Article 6 or subcategory Article 1. So now Article 1, there is an exception to that. And that's if Congress, The U.S. Congress specifically gives limited power to an Article 1 judge for a specific task, such as committees or some of the other things they'll assign people for so they can get warrants out, but not your state judge. They don't have the ability to write anything. And you know what? They turn around, well, yes, I do. I've written them out. Yeah, you have. And once you get caught and somebody puts this into the right court and realizes what you're doing, that's called abuse of power. You have not been delegated that authority. Just because it says judge or magistrate does not give you unlimited. You still have to stay in your lane. They are classified. Every judge is classified. With that, it was set out in our Constitution specifically that way. Those things are formed in there. You have to look at those things, but they don't want you to know that so they can get away with what they're doing. Now, we've got a lot of other things, like I said, or they'll come up with creative stuff. Now, if you watch some of the different things and you've watched Jessica Saxton, she's made this very public. Here in Blount County, Tennessee, another whistleblower that didn't have as much protection gotten before a judge and now has something like a $12,000 cash bond for failure to follow the rules of the court. Well, one, if you're a defendant and you're represented by an attorney, you don't have to know those rules for the court there, Jack. You don't have to, because I'm not part of the court. I'm not a bar carrier. CPS has a court order signed by a judge for removal of a child. Then if law enforcement is not ready on scene, they will soon be. Okay, well, yeah, that's the biggest problem right there is your sheriffs and everybody else record that stuff and go, you are now entering my home. There is a big thing because why? Without a warrant, you cannot remove persons, papers, or anything that is covered under the Fourth Amendment without a legitimate warrant and without a sworn affidavit that allows them in. And it has to be specific. A removal, go ahead, you're going to break it. But once again, you're going to fight in the wrong court because you're going to go to a lower corrupt court. And what are you going to do? No, this is where you escalate it immediately. You file a 1983, which is where you get your answers for constitutional questions. It's constitutional questions doctrine. And you can also take and file that too. That goes to your attorney general. And if you articulate it just right, because sometimes the attorney general doesn't have the power to ask the question, or they're going to shove it off onto the court, where the state itself will file a 1983 to answer the question because they don't have jurisdiction. They can give their opinion if they know you're not going to escalate it and misinterpret it. But once again, it's a lot of shadow games. It's like a shell game. And they're going to cover each other's butt the whole 9 yards within this whole system. Once again, and people say, well, Gunner, how do you know? Because I got them all. Got them on the shell game. I got them on this. I got them where they overstepped their bounds. I got them where they were doing this, thinking somebody else this, and they think they're just slick as can be. They're not. They're not that intelligent. They just think that their buddy system and all this other stuff is going to get them off for what they've done. And coming to find out, yeah, you got caught here in Blount County, Tennessee, didn't you? Why? Yeah, it's true. Last week, we filed a brand new federal lawsuit under 1983, 1985, and 1986 under the False Claims Act and whistleblower with constitutional questions. Yes, we went to the federal court. We asked the hard question that a lot of people have kicked around, and now we've asked the federal court. If CPS is a state entity, subcontractor in your state, whatever it may be, and I go before a judge or magistrate that's paid by the state, they're both paid by the state. Is that not a conflict of interest? Because I'm fighting the state. I'm not going to win. This is why we're losing so bad. But Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 says that any case where the state, including the people that work for them, all their subcategories, anything else, anytime the state's a party in a lawsuit or in a case, the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. In other words, they must make it to the federal level and file in a federal court. But they do not. This would expose the fact that the state has weaponized CPS against we the people of your particular state. And by holding the hearings that they hear are unconstitutional. Matter of fact, it's illegal. Matter of fact, it's an act of treason because they directly defied the Constitution. Yeah, that's a major question. And it's now been asked in the federal court. And I know you guys are going, oh my gosh, that's huge. Yeah, it's very huge. We've asked the question very specifically. You can go, and like I said, the filing's there. It was just done last week. 3-26-CV- I don't know, like 159 or something. But it's in there, and it comes with a very hefty price tag. As of right now, the price tag plus whistleblower plus False Claims Act, before that, just in the multiple counts that we added up, sits at $685 billion. So yes, it has a very serious price tag, but it was also filed with a whole lot of hard evidence that they're just not going to get out of. What does this mean for you? We go into the court, we get that answer, especially on that constitutional question. No, CPS or state judges cannot hear cases that CPS is bringing up because yes, they are a state entity. But once that ruling was made, every court, every state, and every court that is within the same division that I'm in Tennessee, so that would affect Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan, would mean every single one of those cases would have to be overturned under lack of jurisdiction, which means what? The children come home. Lawsuits began to get filed one after another because they adjudicated a case they were never supposed to hear. Now, well, Gunnar, how does that differ between national case law? Well, let me tell you how that works. They lost. Let's say they lose. Trust me, they're not in a good position. They don't like the ruling. They go to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals shuts it down and says, nope, we just agree with the ruling, this and that. Once that comes back from the appellate court, it then becomes national case law. That would mean every single hearing you've ever had against, where it's you versus the Child Department of Services, whether it's the cabinet, whether it's this, whether it's that, none of those judges ever had jurisdiction, even if it goes back a decade. Yeah. We're talking serious, in-your-face type stuff. This is what we've been working on. This is what we've been busting our butt for, where we're now in the federal court asking those very, very serious questions and asking them because we want to know, because the way we read it, just as plain as can be, we need an answer from the state or states. What gives you the power or authority to hear a case to say you have jurisdiction? Because the Constitution is really clear. Any case where the state is a party, you're in federal court. I seriously doubt they would be getting the wins that they would be getting CPS wise, removing kids, foster care, the whole 9 yards, all this other stuff. You wouldn't be getting those wins because you wouldn't meet the federal standard. Because the first thing that they're scared of is what? Look through it through a constitutional lens. CPS would be over with on every single case. Why? Because they've broken into your home. No warrant. Fruit from a poisonous tree applies. Boom. Case is over. It's done. That's why we've had talks and so on and so forth. This is why the state of Tennessee, especially right now, has got on their floor of trying to remove, although our case made it through because it's grandfathered in and was filed before this became any law, but there's talks of trying to insulate judges and officials and state employees and this and that from having immunity in the state of Tennessee. to where they can't be sued, or they just can't sue the state of the Senate. Why? Because they know what's coming. And I'm sure you're probably watching too. Somebody from the judicial committee or this will get replayed. Hi, how you doing? I'm the asshole. I'm the guy that woke up to piss off somebody today. Yeah. And that's what we're doing here, is educating others on how to piss off others. What? With knowledge and truth, with the light. The things you don't want brought to the light. There's your problem. You want it hidden. You've been making millions and billions of dollars off the souls of families and situations. Let's put it this way. I know for a fact there are situations, had you had not stepped in, done your corrupt shit, that good men could have stood up and done things to prevent other things to happen, but you got in the way because it's a police state. It's the government has to step in. It's not the way it works. Well, I'm gonna tell you something, golf guy. That what that comes down to is the judge doesn't have the authority or the power to remove anything. In other words, they don't have the jurisdiction or the power. This is what we're going over to enter your home. Only an Article 3 judge or Article 1 with special things for the Congress. They can sign it all they want. Literally, they're signing their death warrant if you actually know what they're doing, because that's an abuse of power or powers that were not delegated to them. Family court judges don't have that. And here's the funny part. States can't give it. Only the Constitution can when it comes to those matters. So regardless if the judge signed it or not, does the judge even have the power to sign it? The jurisdiction to sign it? No, they do not. Absolutely not. And our Constitution is clear. We went over that in a previous episode in depth. Article 3 or Article 1, and you better, and Congress better put you by name for limited powers. Other than that, they don't have. The states can't delegate powers that they don't have to delegate. There's the problem. They can't waive rights like they say that, that they've done in all 50 states. Training people to come into your home, violate your Fourth Amendment, question people on private property. All constitutional rights violations, which means what? It should never be in court. It's from a poisonous tree. We've got constitutional crimes. Not hard to prove, because you turn on them. Where's your warrant? Well, I have a court order. You can't adjudicate on that yourself. You can't rule yourself power, but they do it. Two, you can articulate the fact that they never had that power or authority. And then you call for an investigation and audit into that same judge that did that, because I guarantee you they've done it before. But you got to argue at the right place and file in the right place for that to happen. That's one thing that we're especially big on here, is knowing what courtroom to take and file in and what court to file in, so you are heard. You're heard properly. But you got to have ways of doing it. Once you figure out how to get around some of this game and everything else, they're mad. They're big mad, especially when they know they can't come after you, or they can't squeeze you without putting them first and foremost in the light. Because there's the thing about cowards. They don't want to come into the light. They don't want to be transparent. I've always had that conversation with, things in certain small groups, this and that, and people have attacked me over and over and over again. I haven't changed. I'm transparent. Those that want to know details, things in my case, this and this and that, I'll be more than happy to have those conversations, show you the evidence, show you to where you look at it. And then everybody that's looked at my case turn around and go, wow, you talk about massive fraud and corruption. You have just touched about everything you possibly can. And say, yeah, and I know how to call it out. That's what scares them. That's what scares them. They don't want you and I educated. There's the biggest thing. Um, and then here's the funny thing is you think, oh, well, we do this for the safety of the children, the safety of the children. So why is it we're getting our Facebooks and everything else blown up all over the place with stuff like this? You see this? Teachers, preachers, all of them. All this stuff. Avoids prison after assaulting a sixth grade boy. How did she get access to those kids? Oh, wait, they forgot to tell you that they post social workers in public schools and hospitals. They have access, and these people seek out children. Let me tell you something. Bless your heart if you want to do that, but I sure as hell don't want anything to do with any of the schools or anything else to deal with, everybody else's damn kids. I ain't. Those that do should be a smaller group, and in my opinion, people that you trust, and this that why? Because you go through, and how many different teachers do your kids have in public school? 3, 4, 5, 6, a different one each session or period. Look at this. Six-year-old. Disgusting. She asked him to be the boyfriend, the whole 9 yards, everything else. Finishing, he said they were meeting up while they were still in, he was finishing up sixth grade, middle school. I'm baffled. The amount of people that are in public are far more dangerous than anybody that's in our families because of just the sheer numbers of exposure. And they let these people off with no consequences, like it's nothing. Oh, well, we'll slap on the wrist, or, we've got plenty of cases here in Blount County, Tennessee. I don't get it. Back in my day, anything like that, when it come down to you beat on your wife or did something to your kids, this and that, there was men of the family or men of the community or whatever, they just dealt with it. Police officers weren't called till after, and then generally they got another beating on top of it. I don't understand this world anymore. What's wrong? I mean, I feel so out of place, and even talking to my oldest daughter, just saying, well, Dad, there's not many people like you anymore. You're just so rare. To have honor, integrity, respect, do the right thing, teach that to their kids. And whether it's stuck with all of them, it's a lifelong thing, but you're always counted on to do the right thing. That's one thing that I was always brought up with is, interesting concept. They say when no one's looking, they say, well, isn't the creator himself looking, watching you? Yeah. And so many people have so much shame, so much guilt. And the thing that baffles me is why the people let that overtake them rather than looking at the light and the things and the love and the family and everything else they have around them, and they throw all of it away. And I know I'm not the only one to see it. I know you guys out there that are watching this right now, you guys have seen the same thing in your life. Just watch people. Why would you walk away? Why didn't you stick through? Or you've had other people to, they get their balls broke or whatever. Why would you give that other person a chance? This is it. Why? Because, it was worth the investment, and they did correct things, and they became a better person. That's growing with somebody. But people that won't, man, the quicker you got to cut them out, the quicker it's just the way it is. You got to cut them out. And I know there's a lot of people that watch this show. I get people that are in CPS, that are in, politicians, this and that, that'll go on. And man, I know you guys are watching. I really don't care. Why? Because I'm consistent the same way I am in person. What little bit I get out, especially with having, congestive heart failure, I don't get out much. A lot of that was taken from me, but at the same time, there's still this outlet, still a way to educate, still a way to share with you guys the information that may save your life or save your family. But understand too, man, they know all this stuff. Whether we have politics on this, whether we can agree on it, we disagree on it, whatever it is, CPS has got one model, and one model that works great. Divide mom and dad, destroy the family, remove the protection and the leadership, isolate the woman, and manipulate the hell out of her. 101. This is how we get what we want. Then you can twist a woman up. Why? Because my kids. And they've fed them that all their time. It's not just yours, man. It's also the fathers. And if you have a family, you know what a family, you're not going to break the family. Once they've isolated you, they can manipulate you. And and I've seen it over and over and over again. Split up mom and dad. And eventually they've had it, then they split. Then what happens? Get the woman alone, and what do? Then they terrorize the woman. And there ain't a lawyer or anybody else that's going to stop it. It's the same story over and over. Gunner, I've got a case. You got to hear what happened to me. And they split me and my old man up. And they did this. I said, did you guys stand together? Nope. Sorry. I right now you're fighting, like I said, you're beating your head against the wall with half the things. Why? Because they've already divided you. You're already weaker. Both of you. People don't want to hear that. I can do it. I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm a this, that. That story of the cords. One cord, okay. Two cords, not easily broken. Three cords. Three things together. Very powerful. I'll tell you, James, a lot of it has been, I see everybody else getting away with it. Why am I struggling so hard when I can just enjoy some of this or some of that and just get me a taste? And that's when evil steps in. Because you give it an inch, quarter of an inch, 16th of an inch, 32nd, 64th of an inch. It's going to take miles. It always does. And it wears on a person's soul, where there's no soul left. People that have hopes and dreams and aspirations, they're gone. And then they wonder, and I've heard this so much, why can't I have those things? Or why can't I have a nice life? Or, they go through all this. Why is this happening to me? Or the other one that I hear a lot too is, I don't hear God. I was always told something a long time ago that, if you don't hear God, one of two things. Wasn't him that moved. Wasn't the creator that moved. It was you. Or teacher never talks during the test. You should know this by now. It's the way we should be raising our children too, is to live in a world without us. Be prepared for this stuff. So that's why I encourage you guys, anybody that you know that are young parents, people that have young kids, babies, to say, plug into this. Why? Because you may not need it now, but you're going to need this sometime here soon. And we're doing our best to, on our front as well as several other fronts, to shut it down, abolish it, You guys look at what's going on in Arizona. Um, they reformed it. For those say, oh, well, we need reform. We need reform. No, reform doesn't work. Look at Arizona. We need abolishment. Well, what about the kids? What about give it back to the sheriffs? If there's truly a crime, let them deal with it. Other than that, piss off. Other than that, put up a billboard, do advertising like any other business. Why? Because they're supposed to be free services. They're supposed to connect you with things that are out there, where the food banks are, where you can get housing. You know, these are all the services, but all of a sudden they run out of all of a sudden, well, we don't have money for that no more. But yeah, but you got a ton of money from kidnapping kids and doing the adoptions and everything else and sending them overseas, and then kids disappearing, or they're in the foster care system, then they run away, but you don't report it. Why? Because you don't do your job and you collect money, then you get in trouble. Yeah, Rose, it eats at your soul when you realize that generational curse that you want to break from your parents, your family, some of those other things. Yeah, that kind of hurts because you wanted to break that. You wanted an opportunity to do it. But they know people that are part of the system, agree with the system, will raise their kids back in the system. They don't want them to wake up. Why? Because they don't want that whole generation that won't take it anymore. And we're about getting to that point. Yeah, yeah. Utah's been doing a lot of that, Rose. Matter of fact, Tennessee just got through with their audit, and they were $41 million of where's the money, unaccounted for, gone. Hmm. We never used to be would never say there's no amount of money that could ever replace the life of a child. Car accidents, rare occurrences, this and that. When kids go on, how do you put a price tag on a life? But we've become so numb from everything else over the years that this is okay, that's okay, and the lies and the propaganda, and the poison in the foods, the poisons in the medicines. Now, don't get me wrong; they've got good stuff with them. They're excellent at internal medicine, hospitals, surgeries, this, that. They're great, but all these side effects from all these medications, man, just you see an advertisement for a pill on TV, cracks you up because take it here, but may cause blindness. Third leg, your right testicle to swell up. Elephantitis. Your vaginal secretions, or this and that may cause you to may cause you to go blind. May cause sickle cell anemia. May have this. May have this. Here's all the side effects. But take this, and if you're allergic to the drug, stop. Don't take it. You're supposed to know you're allergic to the drug if you've never taken it. Um, yeah, you can't get that time back, Rose. Possibilities, futures, all those things you aspired to before CPS came in, they're gone. They're crushed because they're not the same kids. You're not the same person. You've had to fight off false allegations. You've had to fight off this. You've had to fight off corruption. All you ever asked anybody to do was Just do your job. But then you realize they do it and they get paid what they pay. And like I said, when and it's coming, because I know Arizona's like freaking out now because of all the stuff they're discovering out there and the lawsuits that are coming in, that they're trying to cap some of these off or even pass stuff to where people can only get so much, which once again, Tennessee's trying to do with some of that stuff, but got in there before that. So I know it's going to be hell moving forward, but I know I've caused quite a stir here in Blount County, Tennessee with all the judges and my filings, and nailed them. Evidence is on file. It's completely articulated. There's no arguments to it. They're going to try. But once again, even those were snuffed out. Even in the filing to, okay, what do you got? Well, you deal with this. Well, now you got to deal with that. No, we're not dealing with that. We're not, there's nothing to hide. We're talking about massive fraud. There's no immunity with fraud. That's one of the things that a lot of people say, we'll get past the younger doctrine or the space out here for a second. Rooker versus Feldman. A lot of you guys say, well, I had to get past Rooker versus Feldman. I had to do this. When you make the case about fraud, none of it applies. That was one of the things that that was our flagship, was to go in with that. And then the huge constitutional question. I've got a question for the court. Constitution says this is clear as day. States are doing this. Is this constitutional or illegal? Are these courts, family courts with CPS, going after people civilly? Are these even legal hearings? Do they even have jurisdiction to hear them? Looks like we're going to get an answer. And when they come back with what we're hoping and know, Constitution's pretty clear. They're not going to like the answer, because then that's how many years that CPS has been doing this against people in Tennessee or in Kentucky or Ohio and all these other things. That means every single one of those judges, every single one of those magistrates are going to have a case filed on them or multiple cases filed on them and an immediate return for the children based on fraud upon the court because they didn't have jurisdiction. They filed. Once again, we twisted that up. Remember how we've told you guys, file in the right court. CPS didn't do that. Oh, well, this is state business. No, it's not. It's not state business. This is the state, me versus a subsidiary of the state, ruled over by somebody that's employed by the state. Everybody I'm fighting gets paid by the state. It's a conflict of interest. This is an extreme bias. Tell me it's not. Because then look at my case and the massive amount of fraud and the corruption that was done by both the magistrate and the judge, enough to where the judge, Judge Harrington in Blount County, Tennessee, calling you out. Yes, 100%. You're listed. You're public, girl. Hate that for you. You violated the state's constitution. Article 1, Section 14. No person, this is federal too. No person shall be made to be held accountable for a crime. In other words, using criminal code and punished. Even a restraining order or no contact order, that's punishment. Without first being presented, indicted, or impeached. Well, guess what, folks? There was zero criminal charges on me. None. Not even a filing, not even a grand jury, not even an indictment. It wasn't even presented to a grand jury. And a grand jury didn't return with an indictment. It didn't even exist. So why was I penalized? Because they thought they could get away with it and screw somebody over. Well, guess what? Now you've been exposed publicly, nationally, and in the courts. You are corrupt as hell. And yes, I will be seeking and pushing both for the maximum in civil and the maximum in criminal once all this goes down, that yes, under the Constitution, that's an act of treason. Now, there's multiple things in there, and I will say these words and I will say them publicly. And no, this is not a threat to anybody in power or a judge. And you can cry all you want and this and that. This is the Constitution. If, or should I say when, you are brought before a military tribunal for the acts of treason, yes, it can involve money, but we will be pushing, or we will be giving testimony to the best of our ability to have the death penalty. Because of the amount of families and corruption that you did, in my opinion, after they've been convicted by a military tribunal, yes, the maximum penalty for that should be imposed, which is the death penalty. One of 5 ways, if I remember right. It's time to make an example, because if they don't, after all this, because the people will rise up. There's no way around it, especially when they know they've got them and these courts are unconstitutional. You better start picking them up fast. Because some people have a little bit more edgy thing than what I do. I'd rather hold you accountable in a higher or in a court and everything else rather than give up mine. That's called due process. Some people are not as patient though. And it's showing. I mean, there's talks all over. You guys, I'm sure, are in those circles that you're hearing that uproar. But imagine if it was legal, that all of this stuff, the whole thing with every family court system, anything with CPS, was found to be illegal and unconstitutional across the nation. What would that do to our country? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. Am I threatening a judge? No, I'm holding them accountable under the Constitution and under the Declaration of Independence, the founding documents of our country. When you signed up for that job, when you took that oath, you knew the risk. You should be scared to make those judgments. You should be scared to do those things. Because here's the thing, what if you screwed up? But not only that you didn't take and human error. What happens when it's business like usual and you don't keep up and you get lazy and it's all your buddies and you're enjoying the clout and the power and the money and the influence, and you're everybody's friend and everybody wants to put money in your pocket and Bob's your uncle, those type of thing. You get caught up in that. Judges were not supposed to be the people that they are. They're people with a lot of humility. They should be. Knowing that if they make the wrong decision or they do not do it in a particular, not having their buddies cover for them, but follow the law to the letter, that their very lives are on the line. Why would you sign up for that? Why? Because it's good money. This is why our federal system works so good. Why? Because our federal judges are paid for life regardless of what they make their decisions on. State judges are not. Matter of fact, a lot of those end up getting kickbacks, especially from Title IV. In a way, kickbacks, they hide it as administration fees. I know, Blount County, Tennessee does those things to where, those part of that administration fee for child support tip people pay in, even though that's not mandatory. Here's the funny thing. You're supposed to work it out with your spouse, and then when you don't work it out with your spouse, then child support comes in. It's not supposed to be a mandatory come up and thing, but they've made it that way because it lines their pocketbooks. They get a percentage, they get a cut. Goes in their judge's retirement fund, doesn't it, Blount County, Tennessee? Yeah, we found all that too, didn't we, Cupcake? Public is transparent. You're not supposed to be hiding. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed, and you can set up private corporations, do this, that, and they're not subject to you. But at the same time, those entities, once again, should be shoved out of public. I don't really think, Rose, that they're really kings. I think they're drunk with power. They're drunk with affirmation, and they haven't respected the office or the title because they've looked at it as attorneys as I want to sit up there and make decisions. I could do a better job than this, and I could do this and that. But once again, these are all feelings. The best family court judge I heard a story, or actually looked into this case a while back, and it was a family court judge that was over a divorce, and basically just turned him and says, "Okay, now listen, I need you guys to figure out everything you've had before your marriage, after your marriage, or during your marriage, this and that, and then we're going to divide it up. Everything you have before the marriage is yours. Anything plus or minus whatever during the marriage, work it out to where it's equitable and you both agree to it." Because here's the thing: the judge said that was funny. He says, "Come back with something real, a real proposal. Don't say that you're locked up, because here's how this is going to go. Because if I have to make the decision," the judge said, "this is how it's going to go. I'm going to give her the car, but I'm going to give him the engine. I'm going to give her the house, but I'm going to give him all the electrical and plumbing. Nobody wins." Because it's a game. Because the divorce attorneys, especially when it comes to the women, a lot of women, if you've been divorced, this, that, you'll know what I'm talking about. These lawyers will whisper in your ear, "Sure he didn't abuse you, you sure this and that," or that, playing off your feelings. Instead of just saying, "You know what, it's ending, it's over. Let's be adults. Let's just go our own separate ways." Act like adults, not children. And here, this one over here, accuse him of sexual assault, domestic violence. Why? It'll guarantee you'll get the kids, and then you'll get the payment. Why? Because that's, now we're going off of feeling. Once again, this is why feelings don't belong in a courtroom. These are the facts. And when people go into the court, they understand it's this 50-50. This is the way it is, this and that. No, we don't need child support. No, we don't need this and that. This is not about that. We're redefining everything. You want to go at it alone, go at it alone. It's just that simple. Part of it, that's, because trust me, there's a lot of people that want to be part of their kids' lives, fathers and mothers. But once again, feelings. Maybe you should have thought about that before you had kids. But then there's a lot of people, me being one of them, I held on too long. Why? And took what I had to take to be there for my kids. Otherwise, I knew what it was going to be, that it was going to be twisted and this was going to happen and that, and how the system played in favor of things, let alone what lies and manipulations would be told to get what they want. I think the courts are wising up to it, some of it, but golf guy, is there a current federal case? Yes, there's a current federal case. It's Evers, Evers versus Tennessee Department of Children and Family Services et al. It was filed, I believe it was last week or week before last. So yeah, it's going through its process. It replaces our previous filing. We had some errors and things that had to go through. Like I said, wasn't necessarily wasn't really our fault, because we were locked out of some things, but that's being addressed in the recent filing as well. So you guys can go check that out and read about it. I know it's been been a little rough, but what do we do till then? Well, we got a couple things. We're gonna, watch a couple of these other things here, videos. Like I said, tonight's just been kind of a heart to heart. I don't know if you guys remember Miss Allie. She's back in the news again. Once again, Epstein survivor. This is somebody that you're familiar with the CPS Breaking News Network. We covered her years ago on multiple different platforms here. But here, check this out. This is Allie Carter.
So drugged that I was carried into a job, dressed, and then placed in a room and waiting for my order because I couldn't move myself. We were in tunnels, was able to meet celebrities, actors, was able to speak with somebody that was so cocky. And I remember telling him, I know you from Look Who's Talking. That's all. And I remember everybody laughing at me because I was 15 and I'm like, the only thing that I know you from, John Travolta, is Look Who's Talking. I know there were many comedians, Kathy Griffin, Robin Williams. I was on an order for Joe Biden. Sometimes I was so drugged that I was carried into a job.
Yeah, there's Allie Carter, naming names. She's been in hiding for a while. Beauty and Ashes show has been, I believe, permanently canceled. Rose, people come, people go. Just keep that in mind. Some people, like I said, stay in, especially with doing public platforms. You have to back off because of the heat or anything like that. Like I said, other things that are going on. But you've seen that on the CPS Breaking News Network before. A lot of other shows that have come and gone. Here, not here. Sometimes we're here for a season, guys, and you guys got to remember that too. That we people do have lives. They do get to the point it becomes too much. People do have to walk away. And you got to respect their decisions. On what they choose to do. Sometimes it's together. Sometimes it's split. So, but check this one out here. This is somebody about had it too. I know you seen me last week play something with Jerry. Well, here's another person kind of speaking up.
Guys, listen to what this man says in this video that I'm about to show you. He sums everything up perfectly, and this is what we need to do.
If voting could change anything, voting would be illegal. Democracy is a scam. Democracy is a system created by those in power to make poor people think you can radically transform your reality without violence and revolution. That's all democracy. That's why America says we got to make the world safe for democracy. Why you got to make the world safe for democracy? Because if most of the people in the world woke up, they would understand a ballot ain't gonna change shit. Bullet suit. Show me a revolution, queen, that's ever changed anything without. Show me a change that's ever come through elections and not revolution. Did the Chinese revolution come through elections? No. Did the Russian revolution come through elections? No. Did the Cuban revolution come through elections? No. Did the American revolution come through elections? No. Did the African There has never been a revolution in human history where people was able to change their conditions by voting.
All right, guys, let me clarify a couple of things. Number one, we do not have a democracy in this country. We have a constitutional republic. And I think that has been, I have heard both sides of the aisle in the political world say the word democracy. We don't have a democracy here. We have a constitutional republic. And I think that is very sad that even our elected and appointed officials do not understand that. Makes me wonder whether or not they're even qualified to serve. I understand that, Rose. Do you follow me on Facebook as well? Talk with Rose 16, because sometimes the names are different. But let me know if you follow me on Facebook from there. And I don't know what you're under on Facebook. If you want to hit me up as a DM on the Facebook thing, yeah, go from there. There's a lot of movement, like I said, in Blount County. I know Jessica Saxton. You guys know that we shared the same magistrate and judge. She's getting ready to do a lot of things within her case. Yes, we do talk due to the fact that we have a lot with our cases that overlap in the corruption. So that's very that's very nice to actually take and like I said, to share some of that information and know it has an impact and share intel and research as we do with multiple platforms. Like I said, there's several people I talk to. Like I said, if you guys need something with the ADA, go see Henry over there Saturday nights with Equal and the Same on YouTube. Does a real good show that covers a lot of stuff with the ADA. Like I said, I've known several people. I do know Malibu Dallas. I knew him early on from years ago. Like I said, we were together, like I said, tutelage and everything else, educating each other and everything else. I got you, Rose. Yeah, just send me a DM. That way I kind of click with it. I get a lot lately, especially lately, of a lot of people just dump on me. It's like, listen, guys, I'm not really an advocate. I'm more of an educator. I do know advocates. If you know something, especially if you've got something like, I've got an ongoing state case. Whoa, you're beyond my wheelhouse. I can deal with, a little bit in Tennessee, but it's more specific to my case. But you get into other states, man, it gets complicated because they have their own little ways of doing things. And every state's a little interesting on how they hide things. That goes through that. Their policies, there's a lot, but there's, like I said, you got to really dig for some states because, yeah, it's just crazy. But now listen, we've got other people. Then you've got other people. Remember how we were talking about hate and emotions earlier in the show? And we're going to kind of wrap things up here a little bit here soon. But this one caught my eye. And I followed this guy before, but she brought it out again. And I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. And I meant to share part of his story. But listen to this guy's story. This is what happens when you have ugly things like evil and not dealing with your pain and your anguish and your traumas. To have somebody caught up in the middle of something innocent, that was completely innocent, to let that roll over and spill over, besides the people that were in here, and like somebody hates you, but hates you for no reason, which I don't understand. But listen to this guy's story. This one blows your mind. It blows your mind, man. This is just crazy and it's sick.
My 3 younger sisters accused me of SA and grape. You guys want to hear this story? I've never told it to anybody. So a long time ago, when I was probably 10, 11 years old maybe, one day my 3 sisters told police that I had SA'd and graped them. And my mother never hit me until that day. I still remember I was sitting down at the kitchen table just doing homework, and then all of a sudden she came in and just started wailing on me. And I couldn't understand why. But she told me, you SA'd your sisters. Now, I was a kid at the time, had no idea what that even really meant, but I was like, I've never hurt my sisters or anything like that. I don't know what's going on. My mother flat out told me, she said, I'm going to put you on a lie detector test, and I swear to God, if you fail that test, you are out of this house. She bought 4 polygraph tests. She found a polygrapher, bought 4 tests. 3 for my sisters, 1 for me. 3 of those tests failed. 1 passed. I'll let you guys deduce what happened there. When it came time to go to court, turns out polygraph tests weren't even admissible in court. I don't even remember how that whole thing ended, to be honest. It was so long ago. We were all minors at the time, so I'm sure it's sealed. Has no real impact on my life today, but it's something I went through. Now, why did they do this, you might ask? So my sisters went to live with their father, who is different from my father. That man married a woman named Cheryl, and this woman hated my mother so much that she decided, I'm going to hurt this woman by hurting her son. So she basically brainwashed my sisters and coerced them into telling police and investigators that I had done that to them. Well, I didn't. Now, my 3 sisters never could bring themselves to apologize to me. To this day, I have no relationship with them. It is what it is.
This story is wild, and obviously that man has a very good attitude about it. He's probably worked through it for years since he was so young when it happened. But this is exactly why there should be punishment for false reporting. And even when it's a minor and it's an adult that is coercing them into false reporting, that woman should have been held accountable. At the very least, it should have been seen as essentially abusive towards those little girls for that woman to influence them that way. It's really so sad on so many levels because the girls were so young. For them not to eventually come to him as adults and apologize and take that accountability, even though they were children at the time, that just tells me that they were not taught right even after that point moving forward. But honestly, I'm not surprised because that's the culture we live in. You can falsely accuse somebody one day and then the next day just live on your life like normal, while that man ends up having his life potentially ruined. Thankfully, in this case, that man feels like he didn't really have any impact on his current life, but at the very least, it did divide his relationship between him and his sisters, which is still pretty devastating.
That's evil, folks. And no, they wouldn't want to take and pass laws to go after people that did coercion and everything else. You know how many CPS workers would be in jail for coercing children? Yeah. Including the fact that, children aren't even supposed to be questioned without an attorney present. Yeah, CAC Center, you got some explaining to do. Well, we did a forensic interview. Really, where was the attorney for that child being questioned for both potential civil or criminal action? You violated those kids' civil rights. There's a huge problem. But once again, that's called, did you hear what she said too? They moved on, but there was no accountability to even say they were sorry. I'm sorry I was used. I'm sorry I lied on you. I'm sorry this, that, and it was because of this, and that. Couldn't even have enough integrity to do the right thing and say, you know what? Sorry. I screwed up. Or I'm sorry I was used. I was played as a pawn. Do I believe that woman going back even today with what they know, this and that, should be taken in that that did that and coerced those girls? I believe she should be serving criminal time for that. We need to have boundaries. That's what a lot of our laws and a lot of these other things are. There are boundaries to keep those people on the right track to do the right thing. But right now, it's not working. Let's see if we got something here. Oh, we got a little bit too much here. Nope, that's old school. There we go. Kicking it off for the week. Well, guys, stay strong. Keeping the education, keep the knowledge flowing. Piss them off as much as you can with the knowledge and information you have. Learn as much as you can. There's all sorts of platforms as that. Sift it. Sift that information. Don't just take gay eyes for it or this. A lot of people, well, I Googled it, so it's there. But did you do the legwork, this and that? You know how many people were caught doing that, or Googling it, or AI, even judges or attorneys that got busted for that stuff? You got to make it your own, man. I mean, things can do templates, or they can give you ideas, or, work with you as like an aid. But it's still up to them. They got to fight. And like I said, even from that story from that dude, man, I guess the thing that kills me is these were people that you were supposed to trust that were family that just led them into destruction. I don't get it. Your family is going to lead you, whether it's your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, this and that, and they're leading you down a path or coercing you into doing something you know is just wrong. Even if it's been made right. You know, we were talking about generational curses that, you know, Rose was, you know, bringing up with their, yeah. Evil doesn't want to die, man. It's going to go kicking and screaming and clawing and every little thing that it possibly can, guys. But we've got to stand up. We've got to do the right thing. We have to stay consistent. We need to raise our children to be better, do better. Just because nobody else gets caught, well, they got free bubble gum and I didn't. How it starts. Now, you get it for a better deal because you're a better salesman, or you negotiate something, or this. Well, that's a whole different story. That's, you know, business skills, not just consumer. But doing what's right, even though nobody's looking, and sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, even when it hurts. You gotta, as the old saying goes, you gotta stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And right now, everybody's just falling for everything. And some people won't go the distance for you, and there's a reason why they don't go the distance with you. They just weren't meant to. Or they chose not to. So, guys, keep your heads up. Keep learning. See you again next week. Make sure to share it with somebody. Share the show on Facebook, YouTube. Share it on your platforms. Let's get that education out there. Like I said, tonight was a little bit softer. Not so much up in your face, but there's a lot to contemplate. But I think we all go through it from time to time. Where we really need to consider a few things. You know, some people will only go so far with you. Expect that. Sometimes people are there for a season. Love you guys. It's because of you. It makes a difference. Keep fighting, man. Don't give up. And like I said, go out there and kick some ass this week. Educate some people and expose that corruption. Stay strong. Love a little bit. Forgive a little. Find something for you. Hold on to what's here, who you are. Don't let anybody compromise that, no matter who it is, because it's just not worth it. Stay true to who you are, folks. See you again next week.